The first fight on the fight card, Impa Kazanganay and Sasha Palanikov. Impa Kazanganay, you guys already know what happened. Impa Kazanganay, I mean, it was devastating. The loss that he had to Joaquin Buckley, it was devastating. A spinning back kick and knockout. I mean, who would have ever suspected the Joaquin Buckley to just randomly throw out a spinning back kick and knock him out in the second round? It was absolutely insane. But in that fight with Impa Kazanganay and Joaquin Buckley, Impa was actually winning that fight. He was actually 29-28, significant strikes in the first round. I mean, he was winning the fight against Joaquin Buckley in that first round. So 22 significant strikes to 21. So at that point, he was winning 10-9 on the judges' scorecards. And in the second round, was winning the second round. He was actually beating Joaquin Buckley in that fight. He was a 2-1 favorite on the betting odds against Joaquin Buckley in that fight. But as you guys know, the infamous spinning back kick knockout, absolutely insane. But it was a very impressive performance all the way up to at that point where he did get knocked out. Before that, he beat Maki Pitolo in absolute domination, 30-27 on all judges' scorecards. A very, very impressive performance against Maki Pitolo. It was an amazing fight right there against Maki Pitolo. Landed 85 significant strikes to 71 significant strikes. Before that, dominating two Dana White Contender Series wins, 72-39 and 94-44. I mean, Impa Kazanganay, he's an absolute beast. The betting odds for the fight, I believe, have him as like a 3-1 favorite. Let's see if we can find it right here. Let's see, so, man, where is it? Minus 300 and then plus 250. So Impa's a 3-1 favorite in the fight over Sasha Palanikov. And Sasha is coming off a very interesting win in his last fight against Luis Koski. He was a humongous underdog, guys. And when I say humongous, I mean humongous. Plus 445 heavy underdog. Luis Koski at minus 600. He was 31 and a half years old. Luis Koski, everyone thought the undefeated fighter was gonna win that fight. I mean, he just gassed out in the third round, and Sasha Palanikov came back in the third round, landed a lot of good ground pound shots, and beat him by TKO in that third round. A very good fight inside the UFC, in his first fight inside the UFC, but now he's fighting an absolute beast who does not gas out. Impa Kazanganay does not gas out in his fights. He has really good cardio, really good striking, really good takedown defense. This fight is 100% going to be staying on the feet. Impa Kazanganay 100% has a striking advantage, has a cardio advantage. He doesn't have the height advantage, he has a reach advantage, though. This fight is 100% staying on the feet, but who knows? Sasha Palanikov in his last fight was a humongous underdog and still won the fight. But the main reason he won that fight against Luis Koski was because his opponent really gassed out in the third round. The same thing is not going to happen here. Impa Kazanganay has really good cardio and is not going to gas out in the later rounds of the fight. I honestly think that the whole fight is going to stay on the feet. Impa Kazanganay is probably going to do exactly what he did in his fight against Maki Pitolo, just dominate on the feet and win the fight by 30-27 unanimous decision. But who knows? Sasha Palanikov, he does have a lot of power in his hands, 6 wins and 2 losses. He had 3 knockouts on his record and 3 decisions. So who knows? He has some power in his hands, could get a knockout on Impa Kazanganay. Impa Kazanganay can also get a knockout in this fight because he does have a couple knockouts. He has no knockouts on his record. I am completely mistaken. I literally thought Impa Kazanganay had a couple knockouts on his record because he just shows so much power in his fights, but somehow does not have any knockouts on his record, which is really interesting. But I think this fight's going to go all the way, and I think Impa Kazanganay is going to dominate the fight on the feet and win the fight by 30-27 unanimous decision. Dan Jung and William Knight. William Knight, you guys already know, was supposed to be fighting Alonzo Menifield, I believe. But Alonzo Menifield ended up fighting someone else in Fabio Chiron and won the fight by submission in the first round. It was a very interesting fight between Alonzo Menifield and William Knight. That fight was a 50-50 fight according to the betting odds. But, I mean, Alonzo Menifield looked really good against Fabio Chiron, so who knows how Alonzo Menifield and William Knight, who knows how that fight would have actually played out. But now he is fighting Dan Jung on this fight card around 2 weeks later. Dan Jung, 13 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw, coming off a draw against Sam Alvey. Before that, getting a first round knockout win over Mike Rodriguez, a third round guillotine over Khadis Ibragimov, has a lot of knockouts on his record, 10 KO TKO wins, 2 submission wins, and 1 decision win. He has a lot of power in his hands in most of his fights. If you look at that fight with if you look at his last fight inside the UFC against Sam Alvey, it was a really close fight. 56 significant strikes to 59 significant strikes. He did get a knockdown in the fight, no takedowns. It was a really close fight on the judges' scorecards in the fight. Could have gone either way. But for some reason, that fight did go to a draw. In the fight with Mike Rodriguez, he showed he has so much power in his hands that knocking him out in literally just 1 minute into the first round. Amazing performance there. Because Ibragimov with a nice third round guillotine choke submission. It was a very good performance in the striking game there, and then submitted him in the third round. But now he's fighting a William Knight, who has a really good ground and pound, has some pretty good takedowns, and can get you to the ground. And if he gets you to the ground with those takedowns, he's gonna land a lot of good ground and pound shots and try to do what he did against Cody Brundage on Dana White's Nintendo Series and try to get a TKO in the first or second round. Both fighters have pretty good cardio in their bag, but Danu Jung has a striking advantage, has a humongous reach and height advantage. He's 6'4" tall, has an amazing reach of 78.5 inches. William Knight is 5'10" tall, so literally 6 inches smaller than Danu Jung, and has a reach of 73 inches, which is a 5.5 inch reach advantage for Danu Jung. So pretty much, if Danu Jung keeps the fight on the feet, he's gonna win the fight by KO TKO in the first round, or dominate the fight on the feet and win the fight by unanimous decision. Or if William Knight can get the fight to the ground and land a lot of good ground and pound shots, he's either gonna win the fight by first round TKO or win the fight by unanimous decision. It's either one of those two options is gonna happen. Very likely this fight ends by KO TKO. A lot of people are saying this fight is gonna end by KO TKO. But I have a weird feeling that the fight's going to go all the way. I think Danu Jung is going to do really, really good on the feet. Do not count out William Knight, though. Has a really good ground and pound, has a really good takedowns. But Danu Jung has really good takedown defense, and his striking, his height advantage, his reach advantage is going to be way too much for William Knight to handle in the fight. So I'm most likely going to be going with Danu Jung to win the fight by 29-28 unanimous decision. I think one of the rounds is going to go to William Knight just because he's going to get the fight to the ground, land some good ground and pound shots, get some control time on the ground. I'm going to win one of those rounds. So I think it's going to be 29-28, the unanimous decision win for Danu Jung in the fight. Just keeping the fight on the feet, using that reach advantage, using that height advantage, and landing a lot of good shots. Again, this fight has a very high possibility of being a KO TKO from either fighter in the fight, but overall, I'm going with Danu Jung, the younger, the taller, the more lengthy fighter to win the fight. Possibly by KO TKO in the first round, but most likely, in my opinion, I'm saying the fight's going to go all the way, and Danu Jung is going to win the fight by 30-27 or 29-28, the unanimous decision. After that, this one is a really good fight because Luis Saldana has finished every single one of his professional fights. 6 knockout wins and 8 submission wins. Very, very impressive. Coming off a very, very good win on Dana White's Nintendo Series on my third round of front kick KO. Before that, getting a second round submission win. So most of his wins coming by submission, but in his recent couple of fights inside the UFC and inside the Dana White's Nintendo Series, he's been kind of making his fights more kickboxing fights. And in this fight with Jordan Griffin, he's gonna want to make this fight a kickboxing fight because Jordan Griffin has really, really good submission skills from the bottom and from the top. If you look at how he wins his fights, 9 submission wins, 5 KO TKO wins, and 4 decision wins. If he gets you on the ground, he's gonna keep you there. He's gonna get a lot of submissions, submission, takedown. And if the fight goes to the ground, Jordan Griffin will have the advantage, even though Luis Saldana has some submissions under his belt. But in the striking game, I'll give Luis Saldana the advantage. So it's pretty much a grappler versus striker fight, with Luis Saldana also having some pretty good grappling skills in this fight with Jordan Griffin. So I think Jordan Griffin, the main way he can win the fight is to be trying to go for takedown, submission, and try to get a submission in the first or second round. But Luis Saldana has really good takedown defense, has really good submission defense, and his striking 100% is much better than Jordan Griffin in the fight. If you look at the height and reach, Luis Saldana a little bit taller than Jordan Griffin, but a little bit less of the reach advantage from Jordan Griffin in the fight. It's either Luis Saldana, in my opinion, is going to win the fight by unanimous decision in the striking game, or Jordan Griffin is going to win the fight by unanimous decision in the grappling game. And because Luis Saldana has really good takedown defense, has really good submission defense, has really good striking, has a lot of power in his hands and his feet, has really good kickboxing, showing he has a lot of really good opportunities to get a KO on the feet, and to defend the submissions and defend the takedowns from Jordan Griffin in the fight. I think overall, literally every facet of the game, Luis Saldana is going to do a lot better against Jordan Griffin in the fight, and the only way I see Jordan Griffin win in the fight is to get a submission on the ground, but I do not see that happening. Luis Saldana winning the fight by 29-28 unanimous decision. But the next fight on the fight card, Jack Shore and Hunter Azor. Grappler striker. That's pretty much all I have to say about this bantamweight fight. Jack Shore, 13 wins and 0 losses. A former Cage Warriors bantamweight champion. Had 1 or 2 wins as a bantamweight champion. He's only 26 years old, 5 foot 8 inches tall, and has a reach of 71 inches. He is fighting at Artillery Combat MMA Academy and has amazing grappling. If you look at how he wins those 13 fights, 8 wins coming by submission, 4 wins coming by KO TKO, and then 1 win going all the way, winning that one by unanimous decision. Even as an amateur fighter, all wins coming as an amateur, coming by submission and KO TKO. 12 wins in a row as an amateur fighter, and as a pro, literally since 2016, has like 8 submission wins, and all the rest coming by KO TKO, with only one of those fights going all the way right here. A former Cage Warriors bantamweight champion. I mean, the man's an absolute beast. So he gets you to the ground so fast. In his last 2 fights inside of the UFC against Aaron Phillips, and then Nohelin Hernandez, he took his opponents down so fast, got him down to the ground, and got their back so easily, and locked in that rear naked so easily in those fights. He got first and second round rear naked submission in his first and second fights inside of the UFC. But he's fighting Hunter Azor, a very good striker, 9 wins and 1 loss. If you look at how he wins his fights, 3 knockout wins and 5 decision wins. I think he definitely has a striking advantage over Jack Shore in the fight, but if you've seen a Jack Shore fight, he definitely has a grappling advantage in every single one of his fights that he goes into. He has a wrestling advantage, he has a clinch advantage. Once he gets you down, it's pretty much over from then on. Hunter Azor is going to have to defend the takedowns, has to defend the submissions from Jack Shore to be able to win the fight. But do I think he's going to defend those submissions? Do I think he's going to defend the takedowns? No, I do not. Jack Shore, he's just so relentless with the amount of takedowns he just goes for over and over again. Submission over and over again. So I think Jack Shore is gonna get the fight down in the first round. Go for a couple submissions in the first round. I think Hunter Azor is gonna defend most of those submissions in the first round. But I think Jack Shore is gonna tire Hunter Azor out in the first round, and in the second round, go out there, get Hunter Azor's back, and get yet another rear naked choke submission. I mean, how many rear naked choke submissions does this man have? The rear naked, rear naked, rear naked, rear naked. I mean, he has like 8 rear naked choke submissions in his professional MMA career. I think we're gonna see another rear naked from Jack Shore in the fight. I think it's gonna be in the second round after he tires him out in the first round. So I have Jack Shore winning this fight in his 3rd fight inside the UFC, keeping as an undefeated bantamweight fighter, a former Cage Warriors bantamweight champion. I have him winning the fight by second round rear naked choke submission. Yorgan De Castro and Jarvis Daño. Yorgan De Castro 6 wins and 2 losses on a 2-fight losing streak to Greg Hardy and Carlos Felipe. Before that, beating Justin Tafa, an absolute beast, on my first round knockout. Before that, getting a first round knockout on Dana White's Contender Series. Getting a decision win over Carlton Little, a first round knockout win over Ras Hilton, a third round knockout win, a first round TKO win. Most of his wins coming by KO TKO, and only 1 fight going all the way. I mean, he ended up fighting Justin Tafa. Justin Tafa has never been knocked out as a professional fighter, aside from this one fight against Yorgan De Castro. But he did fight Greg Hardy in this fight at UFC 249. I'm not really sure what happened. If you guys remember what happened in this fight with Greg Hardy, he kind of, like, something happened with his foot where he kind of broke a toe, broke his ankle. I don't really know what happened, but he hurt something in his foot and couldn't really land these shots that he's usually normally landing in most of those fights. So that fight didn't really go his way in that one. He lost the fight by unanimous decision. After that fight, he fought Carlos Felipe, sorry. And it was a relatively close fight with Carlos Felipe in the fight. Let's see if I can see the stats for that one. 78 significant strikes to 48 significant strikes. It was a 29-28 decision loss in that fight with Carlos Felipe. But it was a very close fight with Carlos Felipe. And you kind of look at Carlos Felipe, and then you look at Jarvis Daño. I mean, there's a humongous gap in skill from Carlos Felipe, from Greg Hardy to Jarvis Daño, who literally has not fought a professional MMA fight in the last 4.5 years. His last fight inside the UFC in 2016, and he is yet to get 1 win inside the UFC, a draw right here with Christian Colombo, and then a loss right here by unanimous decision. He has 0 wins inside the UFC. Most of his wins coming by KO TKO, but I mean, Jarvis Daño, he's an absolute bot in the heavyweight division. Has not fought in 4.5 years. Yorgan De Castro, even though he's on a 2-fight losing streak, I think he's gonna go out there and get a knockout in the first or second round. Jarvis Daño has no wins at the UFC. He's currently 37.5 years old. I think Yorgan De Castro is gonna catch him with a nice right hand in the first or second round. I'm sorry, Jarvis Daño, this is going to be your last professional fight, because I think that Yorgan De Castro is going to retire you for good and get a first or second round KO and TKO in the fight. And then after that, this fight is really interesting. John Magdesi and Ignacio Bahamondes. I'm gonna say right now, Ignacio Bahamondes, he's only 23 and a half years old, finishes most of his fights, and guess what, guys? He is 6'3" tall, has a reach of 75.5 inches in the lightweight division. I mean, how are you 6'3" tall and have that much of a reach advantage? And then you look at John McDessie, 5'8" tall. That is literally a 7-inch height advantage for Ignacio Bahamondes, and then let's see right here, a 7.5-inch reach advantage for Ignacio Bahamondes. I mean, if he keeps one on the feet, he's gonna win the fight. I mean, that is a humongous reach advantage and a humongous height advantage for Ignacio Bahamondes. And he's only 23 and a half years old. John McDessie, 17 wins, 7 losses. Beat Justin Pinedo, Ross Pearson, Abel Charijo, all in dominant striking performances. Most of his wins, he tends to keep the fight on the feet and make most of his fights striking performances. And this fight is 100% staying on the feet. One of these two guys is most likely going to get a first round knockout or win the fight by unanimous decision. And if you look at Ignacio Bahamondes, 11 wins and 3 losses, 8 KO TKO wins and 3 decision wins. Has a lot of power in his hands on his fight in Dana White's Contender Series, a front kick and knockout win on Edson Gomez, a decision win against Chris Brown. I mean, Ignacio Bahamondes, he's such an exciting fighter to watch because he's such a long fighter, he's such a tall fighter. And I mean, he's really good at using that length, really good at using that height advantage in most of his fights, to keep the fight at range, land a lot of good jabs, and every now and then land a nice right hand in most of his fights. John McDessie has never fought in a guy like Ignacio Bahamondes, who has the height of 6'3" tall and has a 75.5-inch reach in the lightweight division. That is just absolutely insane. I think John McDessie, he is 35, almost 36 years old. Ignacio Bahamondes is 23 and a half years old, so he has the age advantage, he has the height advantage, he has the reach advantage, he has pretty much every single advantage. He has the power advantage. I mean, every single point kind of leads me to think that Ignacio Bahamondes is gonna finish the fight in the first round or win the fight by unanimous decision. 58% going for Bahamondes to win the fight by KO TKO in the first or second round. I think it's very likely we see a finish from Ignacio Bahamondes in the fight. But I have a weird feeling that the fight's gonna go all the way. I think Ignacio Bahamondes is gonna catch John McDessie with a lot of really good shots. But overall, I think Ignacio Bahamondes is gonna get a 30-27, possibly a 30-26 dominant performance in the striking game. I mean, that is an amazing height advantage, an amazing reach advantage. He's only 23 and a half years old, an amazing prospect in the lightweight division. I 100% have Ignacio Bahamondes to win in this fight by 30-27 or maybe even 30-26 unanimous decision. Alright guys, so Norma Dumont and Aaron Blancfield. Norma Dumont, 5 wins and 1 loss, a 26th best bantamweight fighter in the world. Her only loss coming in the featherweight division at 145 pounds against Megan Anderson around 1 year ago by knockout in the first round. A devastating knockout in 3 minutes and 31 seconds. She has a lot of wins in the bantamweight division, has never fought inside of the flyweight division. Aaron Blancfield is a flyweight fighter moving to the bantamweight division. Norma Dumont just had a fight where she was at 140 pounds. Before that, at 145 pounds. So in this fight, I fully expect that Norma Dumont is going to have the size advantage over Aaron Blancfield, considering she's taking this fight on short notice, just 8 days notice, and she has to move up 10 pounds in the weight classes to the bantamweight division. She's never been inside of the bantamweight division. Every single one of her fights is inside of the flyweight division. It's very understandable because she's 5'4" tall. It's very hard for a girl like her that is so small to move up to the bantamweight division, to move up to the featherweight division. So this is going to be a very interesting move up in divisions for Aaron Blancfield in the fight. She is only 21, almost 22 years old. Actually has more fights than Norma Dumont, who's actually the older fighter at 30 and a half years old. 5 wins, 1 loss, and Aaron Blancfield 6 wins and 1 loss. Norma Dumont is a taller fighter at 5'7" inches tall, has a reach of 67 inches. Aaron Blancfield, the smaller fighter, way smaller at 5'4" inches tall, has a very small reach advantage at 68 inches. She has a nasty head kick. I mean, if you guys saw that fight inside Invicta FC, I encourage you to look it up. Against Victoria Leonardo, second round a head kick KO, absolutely insane. Decision over Brogan Walker Sanchez, a first round Americana submission win over Gabriel Golfin. Her only loss as a professional fighter in a really close fight with Tracy Cortez. If you watched that fight, it was literally just takedown, reverse, get back on the feet, clinch, reverse, takedown over and over. It was pretty much that type of fight where they kind of got in the clinch, got a takedown, the fight got reversed, the fight got back up, the fight got back in the clinch. It was kind of that fight the whole entire time. But Tracy Cortez, being a little bit more of a bigger fighter in the fight, was able to kind of out-muscle Aaron Blackfield in the fight and kind of reverse the position on top of Aaron Blackfield most of the time in the fight. Kind of be the dominant performer in that fight, being the bigger fighter in the fight against Aaron Blackfield. And Nurmagomedov is going to be the bigger fighter against Aaron Blackfield. So in this fight, who knows? Even though Aaron Blackfield is going to go out there and try to get the submission, try to get a TKO, get the fight to the ground, and try to land a ground and pound control time and get a lot of submissions over and over and over again, even though that is her main game plan in most of her fights. She's a much smaller fighter in this fight against Nurmagomedov, so it's going to be much harder to actually implement that game plan against a bigger fighter in Nurmagomedov who has a really, really good striking and a really, really good takedown defense. I think if this fight was in the flyweight division, I think Aaron Blackfield would have a much bigger chance of actually winning the fight. But considering this fight is in the bantamweight division, Nurmagomedov being a featherweight fighter moving down to the bantamweight division, Aaron Blackfield being a flyweight fighter moving up to the bantamweight division, there's just so much of a big size advantage for Nurmagomedov in the fight. She's gonna go out there, kind of keep the fight on the feet, defend the takedowns from Aaron Blackfield. And if you saw that fight in her last fight against Ashley Evans Smith, I mean it was an absolute dominant performance. She landed 94 significant strikes to 42 significant strikes. Getting knocked out in the fight, landed 2 takedowns of her own in the fight, defended every single one of the takedowns from Ashley Evans Smith in the fight. So I think Nurmagomedov, she just looked really, really good in the last fight with Ashley Evans Smith. She's only 30 and a half years old, the much taller fighter, a little bit less of a reach, but I think this is too big of a step up for Aaron Blackfield. She is only 21, almost 22 years old. I just think it's too big of a step up above her weight class. So I think Nurmagomedov is going to go out there, keep the fight on the feet, defend the takedowns, and ultimately dominate the fight on the feet in the striking game, landing a lot of good strikes. And I think the fight is going to be pretty much the same exact thing as the fight with Ashley and Smith, with Nurmagomedov keeping the fight on the feet, landing way more strikes than Aaron Blackfield, and winning the fight by 30-27 and possibly a 30-26 unanimous decision. If you guys were wondering what the betting odds were for the fight, let's see if I can find it. Minus 250 and then plus 220. So, Nurmagomedov, being the bigger fighter, being the stronger fighter, being a fighter who's 30 and a half years old, Aaron Blackfield, in a very short notice fight, that's pretty much the reason that they have it as Nurmagomedov, as the favorite in the fight. She's just so much of a bigger fighter, has really good takedown defense, and much better striking than Aaron Blackfield. So, I 100% have Nurmagomedov winning the fight by unanimous decision. And then after that, we Mateusz Gamrot and Scott Holtzman. Mateusz Gamrot coming out of KSW, sorry. He was a former KSW champion. Beat guys like Marian Zilkowski. I mean, he finishes so many of his fights. If you look right here, 5 KO TKO wins, 4 submission wins, and 8 decision wins. The man is an absolute beast, fighting inside of KSW since 2013. Second round knockout, 2 decision wins, a first round heel hook submission win, a decision win, a third round knockout win, a second round knockout win, a decision win, a second round, a heel hook submission win, a decision win, a fourth round heel lock submission win, making him a KSW champion. A decision win right here. I mean, he's just an absolute beast. Has really, really good striking and has a really good takedowns. In his last fight inside of the UFC, his only loss as a professional MMA fighter against Guram Kutateladze. It was a really close fight. He lost the fight by split decision, but in the fight, I believe he landed 5 or 6 takedowns in the fight. And if you're landing 5 takedowns on a guy like Guram Kutateladze, who has really good takedown defense, Scott Holtzman does not really have the best takedown defense in my opinion. 14 wins and 4 losses. Coming off a loss to Neil Dariush in his last fight by first round at spinning back fist. He finishes a lot of his fights as well. 5 KO TKO wins, 2 submission wins, and 7 decision wins. I think the main way Scott Holtzman is going to win the fight is to keep the fight on the feet and try to get a knockout in the fight. He is 37 and a half years old. Mateusz Gamrot in the prime of his professional career. Has the height advantage, has the reach advantage, has the age advantage, pretty much has every single advantage over Scott Holtzman in the fight. I think he even has the power advantage over Scott Holtzman, and definitely has the wrestling and submission grappling advantage over Scott Holtzman. I mean, really everywhere I look at this fight, Mateusz Gamrot has the advantage. Wherever the fight goes, in the striking game, in the kickboxing, in the Muay Thai, in the clinch, on the ground, in the takedowns, in the wrestling, in the grappling, pretty much everywhere I look at this fight, Mateusz Gamrot has the advantage. So, I mean, I can't go with Scott Holtzman to win the fight. Mateusz Gamrot is just, he's an absolute beast. So I'm 100% going with Mateusz Gamrot to win the fight. Even in that last fight inside the UFC against Guram Kutateladze, I actually thought he won that fight. It was a really close fight, but I actually thought he won that fight. and he, in my opinion, he's an 18-0 lightweight fighter in the world. I think he's a possible top 15 lightweight fighter in the world. I mean, 2023. He's an absolute beast. So I'm going with the Matus camera to go for takedown, get the fight down and land a lot of good ground and pound shots. Go for a couple submission, but overall, get a 30-27 unanimous decision win against Scott Holton and get his first win inside the UFC in the fight. And then after that, we have Joe Selecky and Jim Miller. You guys already know what Joe Selecky is gonna do. He's gonna go for takedown over and over and over again. If you look at his last couple of fights inside of the UFC, if we can find him, Joe Selecky, right here against Matt Weidman, he had 4 takedowns in the fight, and it was an absolute dominant victory right there. 56 significant strikes to 10 significant strikes, landing at 80%. 4 takedowns in the fight, 12.5 minutes of total control time. You already know what Joe Selecky is gonna do in most of his fights. Go for takedown over and over and over again. He has a lot of submissions on his record. 7 submission wins, 1 KO TKO win, and 2 decision wins. Do I think he's gonna get a submission win over Jim Miller? No, I do not. Jim Miller is one of the best submission artists the lightweight division has ever seen. If you look right here, 18 submission wins for him in the fight, 10 decision wins and 4 knockout wins. Come on, you're not gonna be able to submit Jim Miller. He's just so good at what he does. But in his last fight against Vince Pichel, he pretty much got dominated by like 3 or 4 takedowns in the fight. Let's see right here. I want to see the stats from Vince Pichel. So Vince Pichel had 3 takedowns in the fight, and it had a total of 6.5 minutes of total control time on Jim Miller in the fight. So if Vince Pichel can take down Jim Miller that many times in the fight and have that much control time in the fight, I 100% have Joe Selecky doing the exact same thing. I think Joe Selecky is going to go for like 5, maybe even 6 takedowns in the fight, get the fight down, landing a lot of good ground and pound, maybe go for some submissions, but I don't really think that is a good idea against Jim Miller, who's going to defend those submissions, kind of reverse you and get back on top of Joe Selecky. I think it's going to be a close fight, but Joe Selecky, he's just such a good wrestler, has a lot of good ground and pound, has really good submission skills, really good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but Joe Selecky having the wrestling advantage, and considering Jim Miller just got dominated by Vince Pichel in his last fight, getting dominated on the takedowns, in the wrestling game, in the submission game, I think Joe Selecky is going to do the exact same thing in the fight, go for a lot of takedowns and win the fight by 30-27 unanimous decision. And then on the main card, we have Mike Perry and Daniel Rodriguez. This fight is a welterweight fight. Mike Perry and Daniel Rodriguez have a lot of knockouts on the record. Mike Perry, I believe, has 10 or 11 knockouts on his record, mostly at the beginning of his career, so 11 knockouts and 3 decision wins. No submission wins on his record. He has 7 losses, 1 knockout loss, and 1 submission loss. All the rest coming by decision. His opponent, Daniel Rodriguez, 13 wins and 2 losses. He's currently 34 years old. I'm not sure if we saw it before, but he is having the height advantage. He is going to have the reach advantage in the fight. He's 6'1" tall, so a 3-inch height advantage, and then a 3-inch reach advantage for Daniel Rodriguez in the fight. He has 13 wins and 2 losses. If you look at how he wins his fight, so he has 7 knockout wins, 4 submission wins, and 2 decision wins. In my opinion, he has the better grappling, the better wrestling skills in Daniel Rodriguez, and in my opinion, also has the better striking. I think all around in this fight with Daniel Rodriguez and Mike Perry. To be honest, I think Daniel Rodriguez, everywhere the fight goes, I think he will have the advantage. Some people might think that Mike Perry might have a little bit of a wrestling advantage, maybe a little bit of a striking advantage, something like that. But overall, I think Daniel Rodriguez is going to win the fight wherever the fight goes. If you look at his last couple of fights inside of the UFC, on Dana White's Contender Series, he landed 4 takedowns in the fight, 108 significant strikes to 95 significant strikes to get a unanimous decision. Got a guillotine against Tim Means, got a knockdown on the fight, even attempted the submission, got the submission in the second round. He did a dominant decision win over Gabe Green, got 1 takedown in the fight against Dwight Grant, got the knockdown, got 3 knockdowns in the fight, and got the knockout in the first round. Against Nicolas Dalby, 83 significant strikes to 50 significant strikes. If you look at the matchup preview, this is very, very interesting for this fight. So Daniel Rodriguez is the southpaw in the fight, has the reach advantage, has the height advantage, but guess what, guys? His striking in the fight is way, way different. So Daniel Rodriguez lands 7.68 significant strikes per minute. Mike Perry lands 4.35 significant strikes per minute. Daniel Rodriguez just lands way more strikes than Mike Perry does. Has a really good striking defense. Has really good takedowns. He lands at 90% of his takedowns. Lands 1.34 takedowns in every single one of his fights. Lands at a 62% accuracy rate. So I think in the wrestling game, in the grappling game, I think Daniel Rodriguez is 100% going to have the advantage. And even in the striking game, I mean these little striking accuracy, the striking lands per minute, these strikes absorbed per minute, the defense, all of this might be a little bit skewed just because Mike Perry has been fighting a lot better competition like Tim Means, like Javniel, Vicente Luque, Donald Cerrone, Max Griffin, Santiago Ponzinibbio, all these type of guys in the welterweight division, just really top tier guys in the welterweight division. That is the main reason that these striking differentials look this way. I mean, obviously you wouldn't expect that Mike Perry and Daniel Rodriguez would have that much of a striking differential in the fight. Obviously, Mike Perry has gotten way too big of step up in competition against Donald Cerrone. I mean, there's no way I would have given Mike Perry a shot against Donald Cerrone, a shot against Santiago Ponzinibbio, Vicente Luque, Javniel. I would have never given him any of those type of guys. But now he's fighting Daniel Rodriguez. This fight mainly is going to stay in the feet. Mainly is going to be a kickboxing, a boxing type of fight. Both fighters are going to clip each other in the fight. It's going to be a really good boxing and kickboxing type of fight. But Daniel Rodriguez has one thing that Mike Perry does not: really good takedown accuracy and a really good takedown defense and really good submission skills as well. So I think in this fight, Daniel Rodriguez is going to have the wrestling advantage, the grappling advantage. The striking game is going to be very even. But D-Rod is the taller fighter by 3 inches, has a 3-inch reach advantage in the fight. So even in the striking game, in my opinion, he's going to have the advantage there. So in the striking game, in the wrestling game, in the BJJ game, pretty much everywhere you look at this fight, I think Daniel Rodriguez is going to have the advantage. Even though he is 34 years old, I still think everywhere you look at the fight, even in the cardio, even in his chin, pretty much everywhere, I'm gonna have Daniel Rodriguez winning the fight. I think it's gonna be a very interesting fight on the feet. In the grappling game, I will give Daniel Rodriguez the advantage. So overall, I think it's going to be a close fight. Mike Perry could win one of the rounds, could clip Daniel Rodriguez in the fight, but overall, I'm going with Daniel Rodriguez to win the fight by 30-27 unanimous decision. Nina Ansaroff and Mackenzie Dern, you guys are going to be really shocked with who I'm going to be picking in this fight right here. Early on, when I first saw this fight get announced between Mackenzie Dern and Nina Ansaroff, I immediately was like 100%. I'm going with Mackenzie Dern to win the fight by first or second round submission. Sorry, but guess what, guys? I'm switching up my prediction. I'm going Nina Ansaroff to win the fight, and this is why. Nina Ansaroff, 10 wins and 6 losses. Her last fight was Tatiana Suarez. An absolutely amazing wrestler. Lost the fight by unanimous decision. Before that, beat Angela Hill, beat Claudia Gadelha, Randa Marcos, Jocelyn Jones, Leibarger. If you look at all these stats in the fight, she was doing really good in the striking game. I mean, 100%. If this fight stays on the feet with Mackenzie Dern and Nina Ansaroff is gonna win the fight 100%. But if you look at Nina Ansaroff's couple of fights against Claudia Gadelha and Angela Hill, against Angela Hill, 143 significant strikes to 107. So a really good dominant win over there against Angela Hill. Against Claudia Gadelha, 96 significant strikes to 49 significant strikes. All these 4 wins right here inside of the UFC are all dominant wins inside of the UFC. She's an amazing striker. And then Mackenzie Dern, not really the best striker in my opinion. If you look right here, so Nina Ansaroff, 4.81 significant strikes landed per minute, landing at a 47% striking accuracy, 3.55 strikes landed on her per minute. And Mackenzie Dern has a little bit better striking defense. Her striking is definitely nowhere near Nina Ansaroff's striking game. So if this fight stays on the feet, Nina Ansaroff is gonna win the fight. And the reason that I think this fight is gonna stay on the feet is because Mackenzie Dern, in most of her fights, the reason that the fight gets to the ground and she does get the submission is because her opponents kind of let her get the fight to the ground. They make mistakes getting the fight to the ground. Verna Jandiroba went for the takedown on Mackenzie Dern, got the fight to the ground. Randa Marcos got the fight to the ground on Mackenzie Dern. After Mackenzie Dern kind of tripped or something like that, Randa Marcos got on top of her and kind of gave up that armbar submission from the bottom. Hannah Cifers pretty much did the same exact thing. Mackenzie Dern kind of just laid on the ground, and then Hannah Cifers just went to her, which is a really bad idea. Nina Ansaroff is definitely not gonna do that in the fight. I think Nina Ansaroff is going to play this fight really safe, trying to keep distance in the fight, trying to keep the fight on the feet 100%. She does have the reach advantage, she does have the height advantage in the fight. In the striking game, she 100% is going to have the kickboxing, the boxing, the Muay Thai, all those advantages in the striking game in the fight. The grappling game, obviously, is going to go to Mackenzie Dern, but because Mackenzie Dern, if you look right here, has 5% takedown accuracy, it's going to be really, really hard to take down Nina Askarov, considering Nina Askarov has 77% takedown defense, which is a really, really good takedown defense, considering that she's fighting Mackenzie Dern that doesn't really have a good takedown of her own. So I think this fight is going to stay on the feet. I think Mackenzie Dern could possibly get the fight to the ground, but her takedowns are really not too good. If she gets the fight down, she's going to win the fight, but if the fight stays on the feet, Nina Askarov is going to win the fight, and I think the fight is going to stay on the feet because Mackenzie Dern just does not have the really good takedowns of her own, and Nina Askarov has really, really good takedown defense, so I think the fight is going to stay on the feet, and Nina Askarov is going to win the fight by 30-27 unanimous decision. After that, we have a really good middleweight fight. We have Sam Alvey and Julian Marquez. Sam Alvey has not really been doing too good, 33 wins, 14 losses, and 1 draw. He's currently 35 years old, pretty much, 6'2" tall, has a reach advantage at 76 inches. Julian Marquez a little bit younger, in the prime of his MMA career at 30, almost 31 years old, 6'2" tall, a little bit smaller reach than Sam Alvey in the fight at 72 inches. They both have a lot of power in their hands. Guess what, guys? Sam Alvey has 20 KO TKO wins in his entire MMA career, 20 KO TKO wins, 3 submission wins, and 11 decision wins. Julian Marquez has finished every single one of his fights, 8 wins and 2 losses, 5 KO TKO wins, 3 submission wins. Out of his losses, both coming by decision. He's never been finished in his professional MMA career. Sam Alvey, 33 wins, 14 losses, and 1 draw. If you look at his losses, let's see right here, 11 losses by decision, 3 losses by knockout, and 1 loss by submission. That is the main reason I'm going to say that this fight is going to go all the way, because Julian Marquez has never been finished in his professional MMA career, and then Sam Alvey has only been finished by KO TKO only 3 times in his MMA career, so I think this fight is most likely going to go all the way, and either Sam Alvey or Julian Marquez is going to win the fight by unanimous decision. But as you guys know, Sam Alvey has not been doing good recently. A draw with Donald Jung, a split decision loss against Ryan Spann. He lost against Clinton Abreu, Jimmy Crew, Antonio Rogerio Nogueira. Beat not really too good fighters in the middleweight and light heavyweight division in Marcin Prachnio and Gian Vellante. Lost to Ramazan Ameev, Tyler Slates. I mean, none of this really matters, so we're kind of just focusing on this fight with Julian Marquez and Sam Alvey. We don't really need to look at those past fights in Sam Alvey's career, because all we really know is this fight is gonna stay on the feet. Julian Marquez and Sam Alvey are going to want to keep the fight on the feet and try to get a knockout in the first or second round, but I don't think either fighter is going to get a knockout. Both fighters have pretty good chins in their arsenal. Sam Alvey only getting knocked out 3 times in his professional career. Julian Marquez never being knocked out. That is really good chin from Julian Marquez in most of his fights. But I think this fight's going to be really interesting because Julian Marquez, in those later rounds, does not really have too good cardio. He still has a lot of heart. We saw in the last fight with Mike Batolo, he was definitely losing the fight, but came back in the 3rd round, and he rallied to get a really good knockdown, get the fight down, and get that Anaconda choke submission, I believe, with really like 45 seconds left in the fight. Really amazing comeback victory there for Julian Marquez in the fight. But Sam Alvey has really good striking, has a lot of knockout power in his fights, 20 KO TKO wins. I think this fight is going to stay on the feet. I think Sam Alvey could potentially win the fight by 29-28 unanimous decision. Julian Marquez can also win the fight by 29-28 unanimous decision. I think the fight in the striking game is going to be really close. I think Sam Alvey is a lot slower of a striker. Julian Marquez lands a little bit faster than Sam Alvey does in most of his fights. I think Sam Alvey has more of an opportunity to get a KO, to get a TKO in the fight, but Julian Marquez has more of an opportunity to land those faster strikes, to land more strikes than Sam Alvey. I think either way, this fight goes, I think Julian Marquez will win by decision, or Sam Alvey will win the fight by first or second round knockout. But because Julian Marquez is a much faster striker than Sam Alvey in the fight, I think he will win the first and second round. Kind of gas out in the 3rd round. Sam Alvey will come back, landing a lot of good shots on Julian Marquez in the 3rd round. But overall, I think Julian Marquez will hang on in the 3rd round, make the fight go all the way, and I think Julian Marquez will win the first and second round to ultimately win the fight by 29-28 unanimous decision in a really close middleweight fight right here. Again, this fight is a really close fight. Do not count out Sam Alvey, because he has a lot of power in his hands. Even being 35 years old right now, has a lot of power in his hands still, even though he's on a 4-fight losing streak with a draw to Donald Jung. Never can't count out Sam Alvey in the fight, but I'm going with Julian Marquez to win the fight by 29-28 unanimous decision. Aliaskhab Gazirov and Kyle Dawkins. Kyle Dawkins, the 51st best middleweight fighter in the world, 10 wins and only 1 loss to Brendan Allen around 9 months ago. He's 28 years old, has a humongous height advantage, has a humongous reach advantage, 6'3" tall. Alyaskov Kazyrev is currently 5'9" tall and has a reach of 74 inches. You can already see right here the height and the reach disparities from Kyle Dawkins and Alyaskov Kazyrev. I mean, a 6-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. That is a really insane height and reach differential in the fight. But if you guys have seen a couple of Alyaskov Kazyrev's fights, he's really relentless with going for takedown after takedown after takedown over and over and over again. He's striking. He just goes for so many strikes. I believe if he stays in the UFC for long enough, he's going to be landing like 10 strikes per minute. I mean, he's just so relentless with the amount of strikes he lands, with the amount of strikes he throws, with the amount of takedowns he goes for. Once he gets you down, he's relentless with his ground and pound. He lands so many strikes on the ground. He has really good submission skills, a really good ground and pound. Most of his fights coming by decision and KO TKO. 5 KO TKO wins and 5 decision wins and 3 submission wins. Has really good ground and pound, a really good cardio as well. Has a pretty good right hand, but I think most likely if Alyaskov Kazyrev is going to win the fight, it'd be by TKO in the first or second round. And if Kyle Dawkins were to win the fight, it'd be by decision or first round submission, because he has really good submission skills. 10 wins and 1 loss, 8 wins by submission, mainly by Darce choke and rear neck choke submission inside of CFFC and Dana White's Contender Series. So 8 submission wins and 2 decision wins, with his only loss coming to Brendan Allen, I believe by 29-28, unanimous decision. It's a really close fight. A lot of people are going Kyle Dawkins. A lot of people are going Alyaskov Kazyrev to win the fight. It is a really close fight. So 69% going Kazyrev and 31% going Dawkins in the fight. It's really close, because if the fight stays on the feet, Kyle Dawkins will have the height advantage, will have the reach advantage, could use that to kind of keep range and win the fight that way, making this a more technical fight in the striking game and try to win the fight by 29-28 unanimous decision in the striking game. But Alyaskov Kazyrev has really good takedowns. He's relentless, as I said multiple times in this video. But I think there's going to be multiple times where Alyaskov Kazyrev is going to get the fight to the ground and get on top of Kyle Dawkins, landing a lot of good ground and pound shots on Kyle Dawkins. I don't think he's going to get a submission on Kyle Dawkins, because he does have a really good submission defense. But the one thing I really need to look at for this fight is Kyle Dawkins' second to last fight with Brendan Allen. He landed 3 takedowns in the fight, but guess what, guys? Brendan Allen ended up reversing the position 4 times in the fight, getting back on top of Kyle Dawkins. And that is one thing that kind of worries me with Kyle Dawkins in the fight, because once he gets you down, he doesn't really keep you there. He keeps you down, goes for his submissions, but every now and then his opponents reverse and get on top of him, and that's going to be really dangerous for a guy like Alyaskov Kazyrev, because if Alyaskov Kazyrev reverses the position and gets on top of Kyle Dawkins, he's going to get the TKO, or he's going to dominate you. He's going to kind of diminish that cardio from you. He's going to land a lot of good shots, go for some submissions, and kind of ruin your spirits after that point. So I think the main way for Kyle Dawkins to win the fight is gonna get a takedown in the fight and keep on top of Alyaskov Kazyrev. But it's a really hard thing to keep on top of Alyaskov Kazyrev, because he's so relentless on the ground. It could reverse the position so easily. I think all around this is gonna be a really amazing fight. Possibly gonna be a fight of the night between Alyaskov Kazyrev and Kyle Dawkins. It's gonna be a really good fight, because Kyle Dawkins has a height advantage, has a reach advantage. Alyaskov Kazyrev has a really good ground and pound. Kyle Dawkins has a really good submission skill. So I mean, it's a really close fight. I mean, I've been kind of contemplating who I'm gonna pick for the fight, but because Alyaskov Kazyrev has a really good ground and pound, a really good cardio, has really good takedowns, defends his submissions really well. I think he's gonna get the fight down, land a takedown in the first round, kind of diminish some of that cardio from Kyle Dawkins in the fight, and in the second round, land a lot of good ground and pound shots and finish Kyle Dawkins by TKO in the second round of the fight. Again, this is a really close fight. A lot of people are going with the underdog and Kyle Dawkins to win the fight. And again, I'm not going for Alyaskov Kazyrev just because he has the undefeated record. He is 13-0 as a professional fighter. That is not the only reason I have Kazyrev winning the fight. He's just so relentless, amazing cardio, amazing ground and pound, really good striking. He's a really good clinch work, really good body shots. I mean, that's the main reason I have him win the fight by KO TKO in the second round of the fight. Amazing fight in the third to last fight on on UFC Fight Night on ABC. Vettori versus Holland. A really good middleweight fight there. we have Arnold Allen and Sodiq Yusuff. This fight is a co-main event in a featherweight fight at UFC on ABC2, Vettori versus Holland. This fight is a really close fight. Arnold Allen, the 11th best featherweight fighter in the world, 16 wins and only 1 loss so far, has gone undefeated inside of the UFC. Sodiq Yusuff, 11 wins and only 1 loss, the 13th best featherweight fighter in the world, only 1 loss, and is also undefeated inside of the UFC. The betting odds for the fight really close, minus 140 and then plus 110. It's a really close fight. They're both 27 years old. Sodiq Yusuff has a little bit of a height advantage and a little bit of a reach advantage at 5'9" tall and has a reach of 71 inches. Arnold Allen, 5'8" tall and has a reach of 70 inches. So far, it's a really close fight. The tabloid predictions actually have the underdog in Arnold Allen winning the fight. 60% going Allen to win the fight, mainly by decision, and then 40% going Yusuff to win the fight, mainly by decision, and then a lot of people have Yusuff winning the fight, like KO and TKO. If you guys know Sodiq Yusuff, he has a lot of power in his hands, and it seems like every single time he goes out there, he lands a big shot that can possibly knock out his opponent. He's a very powerful featherweight fighter in this division. A decision win over Andre Fili, a first-round knockout win over Gabriel Benitez, a decision win over Shayman Moraes, a first-round knockout win over an undefeated fighter in his first fight inside the UFC in 2018, a decision win against Mike Davis, also an undefeated fighter on Dana White's Contender Series. His only loss to Luis Gomez in 2017 by first-round slam knockout. If you look at how he wins his fights, 6 KO TKO wins and 5 decision wins, 0 submission wins on his record, and then his only loss came by TKO in the first round against Luis Gomez. His opponent, Arnold Allen, is a left-handed fighter. Sodiq Yusuff is a right-handed fighter. Arnold Allen has a lot of power in that left hand, 16 wins and only 1 loss, with a second-round knockout, a first-round doctor stoppage, a decision win, a first-round submission, a second-round submission, a second-round knockout, a first-round knockout. His only loss as a professional MMA fighter in 2014 by unanimous decision, but after that decision win right there, second-round doctor stoppage, joined the UFC in 2015, third-round submission win, decision win, get a very close decision win over Makwan Amirkhani, a third-round front choke submission win over Maz Burnell, then got 3 decision wins in a row over Nick Lenz, Gilbert Melendez, and Jordan Rinaldi. If you look at the stats in the fight, it's a really close fight. The reach advantage, obviously, going to Sodiq Yusuff. The height advantage, going to Sodiq Yusuff. The striking advantage, 100% going to Sodiq Yusuff. He lands way more strikes every single minute, 6.1 strikes every single minute, and landing at a 49% efficiency rate. The defense advantage, going to Arnold Allen. He really defends the shots of his opponent in the striking game really well. But Sodiq Yusuff and Arnold Allen have really good cardio. In this striking game, it's going to be really interesting because Sodiq Yusuff is going to go for a lot of shots in the fight. He always goes for so many strikes in his fights. And then Arnold Allen can kind of tire Sodiq Yusuff out on the feet, using his amazing defense in the striking game to try and tire out Sodiq Yusuff for the later rounds in the fight, but should be a really close fight in the striking game. I'll probably give a slight edge to Sodiq Yusuff in the striking game, just because even if the striking is really even, with 50 strikes going for Sodiq Yusuff and then 50 strikes going for Arnold Allen, the way that the judges are going to kind of differentiate the striking from both fighters in the fight and try to get the rounds onto one of the fighters in the fight is because whoever is throwing the most power in those punches is probably going to get the round. And if the round is 15 strikes to 15 strikes, whoever is landing the more powerful shots in that fight is going to win the round, and that person is going to be Sodiq Yusuff. He's just so much more powerful of a fighter than Arnold Allen is. But in the grappling game, obviously Arnold Allen is going to have the advantage. Lands 1.36 takedowns in every single one of his fights. Landing a 52% takedown accuracy, and 76% takedown defense. Should be really interesting because Sodiq Yusuff literally has not attempted one takedown or even gotten one takedown in his UFC career. Absolutely insane, but has some pretty good takedown defense at 72%. So in this fight, if Arnold Allen can get him to the ground, he's probably going to win the fight, but it's going to be really tough because Sodiq Yusuff has some pretty good takedown defense, but if he gets him down, Arnold Allen is going to win the fight, and if the fight's in the feet, it's going to be really close, with the advantage only going to Sodiq Yusuff just because he has that power in his right hand. hand. But in this fight, in the striking game, Arnold Allen is probably going to be playing more of a counter puncher type of fighter. When Sodiq Yusuff goes for a big right hand, he's going to defend that shot and go for a left hand and try to kind of tag Sodiq Yusuff with a straight left hand, then go for a takedown, get the fight down, go for some ground and pound, get some control time, go for some submissions, and try to win the fight that way. 100% the grappling going to Arnold Allen, the striking, in my opinion, going to Sodiq Yusuff. So the main thing I'm looking at for this fight is if Sodiq Yusuff can keep the fight on the feet, and if Arnold Allen can get the fight to the ground. That is the thing we don't really know what's going to happen, because Arnold Allen, I mean, we haven't really seen him fight guys like Sodiq Yusuff, who have really good power in their hands, has really good striking, and have really good takedown defense. So overall, I'm going to say the fight's going to stay on the feet for the most part. I think there's going to be one point in the fight where Arnold Allen may get the fight to the ground, may control that fight, and maybe win that round. But I think that is going to be the only round that Arnold Allen is going to win in the fight. Overall, this other two rounds, Sodiq Yusuff is going to be doing really good in the striking game. And overall, I think Sodiq Yusuff is going to win 2 of the rounds. One of the rounds is going to go to Arnold Allen just because of his wrestling and grappling advantages. I think this fight is going to go all the way. Possibly we see a knockout from Sodiq Yusuff, but overall, I think the fight's going to go all the way. Sodiq Yusuff is going to use that power. I'm going to use his takedown defense. Is going to use his striking. His speed, his efficiency in the striking game, his cardio. I mean, all these advantages going to Sodiq Yusuff. The only area I see Arnold Allen winning the fight is in the counter punching game, and using those counters to try to get a takedown, get the fight down, go for some submissions, some ground and pound, some control time, and win the fight that way. But overall, I think Sodiq Yusuff is gonna keep the fight on the feet and win the fight in a really close back and forth fight by 29-28 unanimous decision. And then in the main event, I'm gonna say it right now: domination. Marvin Vettori is going to win the fight. It's pretty simple. This is a 5-round fight in the middleweight division. And after seeing the last fight with Kevin Holland, I mean, god dang, it was an absolute domination from Derek Brunson. Lost the fight by like 50-44, 50-45, somewhere around there. Unanimous decision. Before that was on a 5-fight win streak. Ronaldo Souza, Charlie Ontiveros, Darren Stewart, Joaquin Buckley, Anthony Hernandez. He was doing really good in the middleweight division. He had a lot of hype in the middleweight division after knocking out Jacare Souza from the bottom. I mean, it was absolutely insane. But he's fighting Marvin Vettori, the younger fighter, who is he has some pretty good power in his hands. 16 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. 9 submission wins, 2 knockout wins, and 5 decision wins. To be quite honest, I think Marvin Vettori is going to get the takedown super easily on Kevin Holland, get right on top of him so fast. Kind of do exactly what Derek Brunson did, but with more volume. That's pretty much the difference let's see between the Derek Brunson Kevin Holland fight and Marvin Vettori Kevin Holland fight is because in the fight with Derek Brunson and Kevin Holland, Derek kind of just took him down and didn't really know what to do on the ground. He wasn't really landing significant strikes. He wasn't really going for submissions. It's going to be a lot different with a guy like Marvin Vettori. He's going to get him down, and once he gets him down, he's going to go for ground and pound. He's going to go for a lot of elbows. He's going to go for submission after submission after submission. And seeing this is a 5-round fight, Marvin Vettori has really good cardio. Kevin Holland, I don't really know if he can handle the takedown onslaught from Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori is going to take him down at least 6, 7, 8 times in the fight. Dominate him on the ground. The striking game, obviously Kevin Holland will have the advantage. But it doesn't matter if you have that height advantage, that reach advantage, the striking advantage, if you cannot handle yourself on the ground. And I do not think he will handle himself on the ground against Marvin Vettori, considering he got absolutely dominated by Derek Brunson. So I think Marvin Vettori gets a takedown really easily in the first round. And in the second round, I think he latches in a rear naked choke submission on Kevin Holland in the fight. It's going to be an absolute domination. For all of you guys out there that think that Kevin Holland is going to win the fight, I don't think there are many of you that are thinking that Kevin Holland is going to win the fight. Tablet your predictions. 90% going for Vettori to win the fight, mainly by unanimous decision. Then a lot of people have him win the fight by submission. In my opinion, I think he's gonna get that submission. I think he's gonna dominate him on the ground. Landing a lot of good ground pound shots, landing a lot of submissions over and over, takedown after takedown after takedown. And in my opinion, get the submission in the second or third round in the main event of UFC on ABC 2, Vettori versus Holland.